We can outscore Georgia, and our defense can limit or create enough turnovers on Georgia to limit them. Yeah, maybe. But again, that's it's hypothetical. I don't even know if Ohio State's going to play Georgia this year. They still have to perform against Penn State, Michigan State, and Michigan and keep these types of performances up against, the likes of Indiana, the likes of, anybody else they're playing that's not those big three. Purdue. I think they're playing Purdue this year. I always sort of blank on the schedule. There's so many there's so many games, so many schedules. It's hard to keep track. That's what I'm saying. I think Ohio State would be able to outscore Georgia, but again, that is so hypothetical. I don't even think they're going to play Georgia. I think if Ohio State makes the playoff, they would be a 4 seed. At the rate that's happening, they would be a 4 seed. Especially, I think the worst thing that can happen with OSU today is if Oklahoma ends up winning this game. Because if Oklahoma hasn't played well most of the season, they didn't play that well in the first half of this game, but they've put together a really strong second half with Caleb Williams leading them down. I mean, what are his stats like? Won't be an issue. What won't be an issue? Let me see. We're looking at the box score. Yeah, Caleb Williams, 182 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 88 rushing yards with a 66-yard run. Texas is driving here. Texas might be able to get something going. They get a catch there on the 30. Spencer Rattler's not the guy. He's not winning the Heisman. It's not going to happen for them. But certainly, Ohio State is in position to get back into the top 5. If Texas beats Oklahoma, and then obviously Iowa or Penn State is losing, one of those happens, Ohio State can get back into the top 5 because Cincinnati will get higher up based on whoever loses Penn State, Iowa, because whoever loses Penn State, Iowa, I think drops out of the top 5. Oklahoma will get back into the top 5 if they beat Texas. Ohio State remains to be seen. Ohio State, I think, would go up to 6th if Oklahoma wins this game. If Oklahoma loses, I think they get back into the top 5. You could have 2 Big Ten teams in the top 5, one of them with 1 loss, the other one undefeated. Early loss was a blessing in disguise. I agree. I think that's the thing that's really good for some college teams. Getting that loss out of the way early, you learn a little bit about yourselves. You learn about your weaknesses. Touchdown, Texas. Wow, great throw. Extra point ties the game with 123. This game is crazy. Oh, Troy type TD Texas. Okay, I didn't see that. I'm on stream, so I'm a little behind. Xavier Worthy with the catch. What a player he is. What a game this has been. This one might go to overtime. But early losses can teach you a lot about a team. They can tell you sort of how things are, what your weaknesses are, what you need to improve on, how you need to play against teams in order to beat them. But the early loss might be the difference between the playoff or not making the playoff. Because again, like we discussed last week, the Buckeyes need to keep winning games. They need to make the Big Ten championship. They need to make the Big Ten championship. And then I think they make the playoff. Because the loss to Oregon was a bad loss. Extra point, good. 48-48. Wow. Wow. Unbelievable. So we'll see how much that loss is a blessing in disguise. Because the loss is either going to learn enough about themselves that they win out the rest of the season and they make the college football playoff. Or the loss is the reason that they don't make the college football playoff. So we have to see how that's going to go. I'm not sure how it will, but I want to see how this game's going to end. This is going to be an exciting ending. 48-48, my God. How would we be 4th? Oklahoma will probably lose, and we have better strength of schedule against them. Oregon, we're better, and either Georgia or Bama will lose, and the committee doesn't respect Cincy. Seem like 2 or 3 seed. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's certainly possible. I just don't see – I think Cincy will be undefeated. I honestly think that Cincinnati might make the playoff because of the fact that they beat Notre Dame, and if they can finish the season undefeated, they might respect Cincinnati and give them a spot. I personally think that Georgia or Bama run the table potentially. I think they're good enough teams. If they have a slip-up, then absolutely Ohio State is really back in the conversation, but all of that would be moot if the Buckeyes lose another game, and they could lose another game. They could lose to Penn State. They could lose to Michigan State. They could lose to Michigan. It is possible. It is very realistically possible. And we just have to see how those teams continue to play. We have to find out what kind of a team Iowa or Penn State is when they play each other today. They are not. No, Cincy is not an easy out. We can't just discount out Cincy. I think it's worthwhile for people to discuss the fact that, yeah, Cincy could be discounted out because Cincinnati is not in the Power Five and could easily be disrespected. But based on the way some of these teams, like they're showing the rankings right now on the Texas-Oklahoma game, I think if Oklahoma wins, they're going to move them up to number 5, which I don't agree with, but I think they're going to move them up to number 5 because it's like, oh, Oklahoma had this great second half against Texas. They could win this game in overtime, and Caleb Williams looks like a great quarterback, and Oklahoma should be a top 5 team. I don't agree with it. I'd also be very interested to see if whoever wins Iowa Penn State potentially goes to number 2. Because maybe Georgia or Alabama is not that impressive today, and one of them drops to number 3. The first playoff rankings will be out in a month. I think for Ohio State, first playoff rankings out in a month. If they can be at the very least in the first 2 out, they got a shot, even with the loss, and maybe even if there is somebody undefeated in the Big Ten. Yeah, that'll be the mainstream narrative, right? Exactly. So